I'm here today fishing at Rookery Waters on Magpie Lake, and I'm going to show you the finer arts of dobbing bread. I'm going to go through where I'm going to fish in the swim and places to fish, different depths, but let's just take you through my rigs first of all. Well, I've set 2 rigs up, which normally for dobbing bread I would have 2 rigs set up. The first rig is a shorter length of line than the other one, and both rigs, the main line's 020 pound micron, and I'm fishing to 016 to a prototype 16 hook. Now, depending if I was bagging, I'd only change that hook length, I'd got to probably 018 and a 14. I've got a bulk of number 9 shots. Probably, normally I like to do it just below half depth, depending how deep you're fishing. And I'd start off with this rig where I'm fishing at 2 foot in depth. I feel like I'm using my MP 6.4, and I like to fish just a slightly heavier float than you think you'd fish, so as you can swing it into places. Obviously I'd always start with a shorter line, because this peg here, peg 2 that I'm on, I've got cover. So I'm going against cover, which the fish won't see the pole tip so much. But in open water, I like a longer line to swing so the pole tip's not over them. And obviously with a shorter line, I fish a slightly stronger elastic. The elastics I use are the Matrix hollow core. I use the red, which is a 12 to 14 with a shorter line, and then a longer line, I use the 10 to 12, which is the orange. But both rigs are the same. Line diameters that I start off with, I'd only step up the hook length depending on how well I was catching and the hook size. And if I show you my second rig, if I put them together, slide the hook back, you can see it's probably 2 foot more in length, the line, which 2 foot don't sound a lot, but it is when you're fishing and swinging. It's amazing how far distance you can get depending on how deep you're fishing, because the shallower you fish, the more line you got. If I was to pull the float down fishing probably 1.5 foot, I've got even a longer length of line. But that's it, very simple. Always fish a bulk so I can swing it, and I'm fishing to my bulk through the water, so you can keep a tight line if you're swinging out at a distance. Now the bread I use is Warburton's thick slice. Now it's a toasty, a small loaf. Now I say thick slice because it gives you a good bit of punch on the hook. But if I use that piece of bread and punch that, that will float, because it floats, and then when you go with your bulk, it will float above your bulk, or it will float up to whatever shot's not pulling it down, depending how you shot your rig. But how I shot it with a bulk is the best way, because when you can swing with it and it will take your punch down, only if you punch it correctly. Like I say, if I punch that, it will float. If I compress it with my thumb and punch it, it will still float. But if I take 2 slices and compress it together with my thumb, and I can take any one of my punches, and I'll punch between 6, 8 and 10 mil, depending, because sometimes you won't get a bite on, and it's amazing, on 8 or 10, but a 6 mil piece of punch and the float will bury. It's incredible. So if I punch a pellet with the 8 mil, there it is there, and if I flick that out, you can see it's a perfect pellet, and a hard pellet. If I chuck that in, that'll just sink. So you must compress it, because if I don't, if I just punch it a slice and I don't compress it with my finger, it will float, and that's no big, because your bait is floating above your bulk. You must have it sinking through the water slowly, naturally. Very important, 2 slices, compress them together and punch away, and it will sink every time. Otherwise it will be slower. You've got to punch a piece, put it on the hook, drop it, see if it's sinking. It's not, squeeze it with your fingers and then it sinks. Sometimes when you're shipping out, it will come off the hook. This way, with that hard pellet that I showed you, that will never come off the hook until after a while. If you're leaving it there a long time, you can swing it. I've even caught reeds and it doesn't pull off. It's the best way to punch. And with these Matrix punches, you've got a slit in them, and you can come through the slit and come right out in the middle of the bread. which I'll show you in a minute, that you've got the actual hook sitting round the pellet, so it just won't come off. And it's so important. I've heard so many anglers, oh, I had a go at punch bread and that, but it's no good, it keeps coming off the hook. Well, that is the best way that it won't come off the hook. And when I show you later on how to hook it, it's a perfect pellet. Right, let's have a look now at the swim. Like I say, I'm on peg 2 on Magpie, where I would choose to fish or look to dob the bread. Well, you can see my swim. Now, like I say, I'm on peg 2 on Magpie. The more bread dobbing you do, the more experience you'll get. Now, from my experience, I know straight where I'm going to fish. I know it'd be a complete waste of time fishing in the middle of the lake in front of me. There'll just be no fish there, so they're going to be where the cover is. So, where I'm sitting here thinking of fishing, I'm going to fish up the side of the reeds there, which is between me and peg 3, up to the lilies, sorry, up to the reeds, in the little alcove there, tight in, along the reeds. Between the lilies and the reeds, I can swing a longer line in there. That's what I use the longer line for. And along the front of these lilies if needs be. Obviously, I can't go on to the other side of the lilies because they're in peg 1. And it's not my swim. I can go halfway along the front of them. But my own experience tells me that that's where the fish will be. I don't know where they will be until I start fishing. They could be by the lilies, where the reeds are, which is a likely spot. But I know sometimes they can be further along going to the other lilies tight into the reeds. So I'll start probably at a couple of feet deep and just work my way through the swim, finding out where they are, but fishing the places I've just gone through where I feel, through my best experience of dobbing bread, where the fish are going to be. But I know if I go in the middle, it's a complete waste of time. Absolutely, there'll be no fish there whatsoever, and you just won't get a bite. Well then, let's have a go at catching some fish. Well, I've been all round my peg, dobbing at probably 2 foot deep for about 15 minutes, and I had one slight indication where I've just caught this fish from. And my own experience told me that that's probably the place where I'm going to catch, but they want at that depth, so I've pushed the float up about another 8 inches and it's buried straight away. It's not a big fish, but it's just amazing, just that changing in depth. So many times I've done that. I've changed from fishing shallow to going slightly deeper, up to probably 10 inches more. And it's made a massive improvement from catching odd fish to sort of bagging in the same swim I've been fishing in. And the same thing that you could be start fishing bagging shallow, and it starts to dry up a little bit. You think, oh, they've gone. Push your float up another 4 or 5 inches and start catching again. And I think what happens, the carp are sitting in sort of thermal layers in the water, and they just tend to drop. But because they just drop together, they stay as a shoal. And if you're dobbing your bread and it's not in front of them, they're not going to take it. But when the bread is in front of them, there's a lot of fish there. One of them's got to take it. It's like, if you don't take it, I will. And that's why I think it's such a brilliant way of fishing. They see that bait, it's like a sight thing, that white disc of bread, and they've just got to take it. If there was just a couple of carp there, no, because there's a lot of fish in these commercials and they don't really want to feed, they have to, because they think if I don't take it, the other one's going to take it. Let's see if I can get another one. You might notice I've got 2 bait cans here, 2 of their 2.2 pint bait cans. Well, simple little tip is, I'm punching bread away, it might be raining, there might be a bit of a wind or whatever, and the bread can dry out or it can get wet. So all I simply do is I punch my slice of bread, I put the second tub over the other tub, and that just keeps it fresh. The other important thing is, as you can see, I'm not leaving the rig in the water too long. Probably, if you was to count, once it's weighted up, probably the count of probably 30 seconds maximum, and I'll be re-swinging it in, so it's keeping falling through the water. And also, if any point every time I swing it in, it goes straight away, then I'm fishing too deep, so you shallow up. And it's much better to catch them shallower than deeper, much quicker. But this depth now, I'm getting a few more indications now. I've seen the reeds knock at the back as well. That tells me some fish about there. But I've seen no movement in the lily pads at all. There we are, that went straight away again. Slightly bigger fish this time. Just that slightly deeper rig. This is where they tend to be sitting. Just feel there isn't a lot of fish there. It's playing hard to catch, but just by changing that depth, totally changed the peg. I don't know if it's me, but sometimes when you're playing fish, they always tend to go in the sun and you can't see them when they come up. Yeah, nice little common. Oh, they're like blocks of ice. Absolutely freezing they are. Keep still. Lovely little common. Let's go and get another one. Just show you how I simply punch my pellet of bread to put on the hook. Like I say, 2 bait boxes, 2.2, lift the top one off, that keeps it nice and fresh. Push down on the 2 slices that I've put together, compressing them. Twist my 8mm punch over the bread to cut it, a little tap just to compress it a bit more. Slip the hook in the slit, pull it through, cover my bread back up, and there you have it, the perfect pellet. And I can tuggle it, it won't come off. Absolutely perfect pellet, well confident that will never come off the hook. Probably get 15 minutes and it probably still won't come off the hook, but by that time you'd have probably caught 8 or 9 fish maybe more. Anyway, let's catch another one. I want to give up this one. There we go. They are small fish, but still not that small. Nice fish to finish on. Nice common. There we go. Even holding his fin up. But what was important was definitely the change in the depth. I've had one indication at the normal depth I would catch at, and yet by going probably another 8 inches deeper, it was not a bite every put in, but steady. So I could have sat there fishing shallower and not altering my depth. So very important, if you go out dobbing bread, change your depths to find out where the fish are, and once you find them, you'll have a lovely day. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more from me and the rest of the Matrix team, then hit the subscribe button below.